everyone, welcome back to Bodyhaven Soaps. My name is Darlene. I am the owner and creator of Bodyhaven Soaps, and the whole goal of this channel is to help fellow creators create. In today's video, we are going to go over making bubbling milk bath salts. So you may have seen some of my previous bath salt recipes and little tips and tricks. I do this one a little bit different because we're incorporating the milk and things like that. This bath salt is going to have a surfactant in it, which is going to create the bubble bath effect in the tub. It's going to have milk in it, which is we're using coconut milk today, and a coconut milk, so it's vegan as well, but you can feel free to exchange that with whatever milk you can get supplies for, or to go with your branding if that's what you're doing. If you do goat's milk is one of the key ingredients in all of your products, feel free to exchange that in and out of this recipe. There's multiple different salts that I'll use, and I'll explain the reason that I've picked those salts. However, the salts you can exchange out for whatever it is that you would like to, or what you can gain supplies on. We do have an oil as a moisturizer as well in this recipe. That is also something that you could exchange. So say hemp seed oil was the key ingredient into your branding and everything like that. Absolutely exchange that and use the type of oil that you need. All right, but there is a few key ingredients in this recipe that I would never exchange, being the dendritic salt and some Nutrizorb as well could be exchanged. So there's some different things. We will talk about it as we go through this video. So if that's something that interests you, feel free to follow along, and let's get into it. All right, so first of all, we're going to need our container that we are going to mix in. Everything is sanitized, everything like that. I will show you how I package these at the end as well. So the very first ingredient, which is an ingredient that I would not exchange out of this recipe, is going to be the dendritic salt. Now, it does have a specific type of structure on the outside that allows it to absorb and hold on to those oils, and until the salt dissolves into the water in the bathtub, it holds those oils. Another option you could use is going to be the Nutrizorb. Once again, this is modified tapioca starch that will hold a whole lot of fragrance oil or bath oils of your choice, so that it doesn't clump and make that hard rock solid bag of salt. These are the two ingredients that I would choose for this. I prefer to use the dendritic salt instead of the Nutrizorb. There is certain places where I will use that instead, but you can absolutely use one or the other, or both, if you're trying to put a higher oil content in here. Okay, so this is the dendritic salt. It's a very fine powder. You wouldn't even know that it's a salt. Okay, we do have, for this recipe, and I'm making a 1,500 gram batch, so you can size this down if you don't know how to take the measurements and turn it into a formula. I do have a video on how to change a recipe into a formula, or a formula into a recipe, so go back and watch that. All right, so this is dendritic salt, and we have 195 grams, and we will put this right into our bigger mixing bowl. So as far as the dendritic salt goes, this is going to be our base for mixing our oils and everything in. You don't want to put everything in here and then your oil, because then it can't soak that up. So you want to put all of your liquids, or anything that you want, your fragrance oils. Oils would be the only liquids I would put in salts. Or any skin moisturizing oils, your polysorbate, if you're adding that in, into the dendritic salt, and make sure that's mixed in there well, so that it can absorb all of that oil and hold on to it, so it's not spreading through your whole mixture. All right, so the first liquid ingredient that we're going to add in is going to be sweet almond oil, and I have 45 grams. So in a bath salt, I wouldn't, unless it's a branding thing, I wouldn't be going and putting in like a whole bunch of, this is going into a bath. So you're looking for the moisturizing properties, but I wouldn't put expensive oils in here like jojoba or anything like that. A lot of it just goes down the drain, and it's pretty much a waste for an expensive oil. They won't get what those oils bring to the recipe, being dispersed in all of that water, okay? But we do want an oil in here. So whatever oil works for you, I just choose to go with the lower cost ones, because it's essentially a waste. All right, and then we do have our fragrance oil, and I am using the Botanical Orchard fragrance oil. It's one of them. I love this smell, but we are putting in 37.5 grams of fragrance oil. And then I am also putting in 45 grams of polysorbate 80 to make sure those oils disperse into the water and the skin can actually use the oils that we're putting in there. And if you're using colorant, it also disperses the colorant so it doesn't stain their tubs. So the very first thing we're going to do is take a minute and mix this all in really well. Get that dendritic salt. One thing I should mention, you guys, if you are using the Nutrisorb in place of the dendritic salt, you'll have to figure out a measurement. Please don't try to use the same amount of grams of dendritic salt as Nutrisorb. Nutrisorb is very feather light, and you will not need that weight, okay? What you want to do is make sure that you have it so that, hopefully you guys can see that, so that it is like this. That is the amount that you're going to use, but you'll have to figure out a formula for that. If you go to the manufacturer's directions, it will tell you how much Nutrisorb to liquid it should, okay, depending on where you're buying it from. Okay, so I have that all mixed in there really well. Okay, so that is all of our liquids and our dendritic salt. And then we're just going to add in the rest of our salts. So I have Epsom salts, of course. Epsom salts really helps with the muscles and stuff like that. So we have 315 grams of the Epsom salts. I am going to use some Himalayan salts, some pink Himalayan salts, and this is medium grind. I like the texture of it. And this brings some minerals and different things to the bath. So I actually really like Himalayan salts in my bath, so I tend to add these to most of my salt recipes. And I have 75 grams of the pink Himalayans. And then I add in magnesium flakes. So I have started putting magnesium flakes in a lot of my products. Magnesium absorbs very easily transdermal, and especially in a bath, under your arms, your feet, areas like that. And magnesium really helps relax the muscles. I've started using it in my baths, and I just absolutely love it. So now I put it in almost all of my salt recipes, okay? So I am putting in 75 grams of the magnesium flakes. I am putting in 195 grams of baking soda. So I'm going to take a minute, and I'm probably just going to use my hands here now that we're getting all of this in here. And I'm just going to mix this really well. Okay, so at this point, I am going to add in my SLSA. So I have 180 grams of SLSA. Now, I buy the coarse SLSA. And with the coarse SLSA, there's less powder airborne into the air. I get it from Sopermore. It is out of Calgary. It's the only place that I've been able to source this from. If you're in the United States or another country, maybe it will be a little easier for you, but I like the coarse, so I tend to go for the coarse at any time as long as I can get it. But you can see there's no cloud of dust or anything. With the fine, you get that cloud of dust all the time. So I'm just going to take a minute to fold this in, and that's what's going to create our bubbles. And I like to go with each ingredient and mix it thoroughly just to get it dispersed throughout the batch. Okay, so while I'm doing this, all of the salts that I added in there, you guys could use whatever salts you wanted. You could use just all Epsom salts to make this. Whatever is available to you, or as I said before, whatever works for your branding. All right, so the SLSA is in there, and you could go with another surfactant if that's what's available to you, but I think SLSA is pretty easily purchased, okay? And you could use the fine. I just prefer to use the coarse. Now we're going to put in our colloidal oatmeal. This really brings a lot to the tub. Normally, you guys, I put a lot of clays in my product, but I find clay in this recipe, because I have tried it, because I love my clays. It brings a lot of skin softening properties. However, the clays tend to make this formula lump up. So I like to use the colloidal oatmeal. And I have 75 grams of the colloidal oatmeal. And you guys can see how light and fluffy this is getting. You could absolutely put essential oils in here if that's what you were looking for, but just please, you would have to change your usage rate according to the manufacturer's direction. When you start messing with essential oils, you really have to be careful, because it can cause a lot of problems for you, your customers, or your family. Making a mess everywhere here. All right, and the last thing I'm going to add in is going to be my coconut milk. And I have in here coconut milk, 150 grams. And I don't know if you've ever had a milk bath. I do make just a powdered milk bath as well without the salts. But your skin feels amazing afterwards. So when you're done getting all of these ingredients in here, when you squeeze this together as hard as you can, it should just crumble apart. That is what you're looking for. Now, as far as coloring this, you could color it whatever color you want. I am going to put a little bit of water-soluble dye in here, so it makes a nice pink color in the tub. People really like colors in the tubs, and if you're using, you know, natural colorants, you could use a little bit of clay in here, but remember, you get too high of amount, you're going to end up with a lot of clumping, so do small amounts. I have this Dusty Rose water-soluble dye that I get from Fizz Fairies that I'm going, oh no, this isn't Fizz Fairy, sorry, this is Breaking the Mold. I actually have purchased this about a year ago, and I'm really liking Breaking the Mold's water-soluble dyes. And no, I'm not affiliated with them or anything like that, just my honest opinion. I'm just going to put a little bit in there so that, you know, you're not going to see this come through in the product too much in the package, but you will see it in the bathtub when it hits the water. Warm water really does help it. But I am going to use a little bit of this golden peach mica from Windy Points. So that it looks nice in the package. It's not going to do a lot, but I do have the polysorbate in there, so it will disperse the color throughout the tub. But if I was just to put the water-soluble dye in there, it wouldn't have that great of a color. You could put some botanicals in this as well if that was something that you wanted to do. I have some of my customers that really like botanicals in their salts. And I have other recipes for that. Then I have some of my customers that don't like things floating in their tub. So, I mean, it really depends on what it is you're looking for, what your customers are looking for. But you can see how this just stays nice and light. I'm just trying to make sure the color is dispersed well through there before I package this, so I don't have some of those more gray rose colors in there, and make my packaging look off. For today, I will be packaging this one into some little bags like this. You could do it in glass jars. There's some really cute jars that I use that I actually purchase at the dollar store. I'll just show you. This is just one of the jars that I'm referring to, and it's got a little cork lid and it looks like a little milk bottle. This is just my milk bath that I have in here. I mean, it's a lot of milk, so this is basically like a bath shot or whatever, but it is packaged in this little jar. You could package it in jars with little scoops. The options are endless. It just depends on your creativity while you're going through doing this. And these frosted bags come in multiple different sizes. This is one of their smaller ones. And it's pretty easy. Just use your spoon to get in there, open it up. I am going to weigh this because this is a product I sell, so I need to make sure that they all have the exact same weight in there. You guys know how that goes. And I just use a spoon to scoop it in there. And these little bags like this, I do sell them individually, but I use them in a lot of my gift boxes. But that's how that looks. You guys, hopefully you guys can see that. A little bit of glare from the light there. But they're pretty nice little bags. They spread at the bottom, so they do stand up really well. But yeah, so that's how I package these types. And I do some larger ones for individual sales, but these little ones is what I like to use for putting in my little gift boxes and stuff. Okay, so that's how easy this recipe is. You guys could change formulas slightly. You start adjusting too much, I can't make promises. It's not going to turn into a rock solid lump. As long as you guys are testing in smaller batches than this, you'll be fine. All right, for my Patreons, you guys can find this recipe on the Patreon site at the time this video is posted. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.